A little boy was told by his friends that all adults have a secret of some kind and therefore it is very easy to blackmail them. He decided to check it out and, coming home after school, said to his mum with a serious look, "And I know everything." Mummy turned white and slipped him $20. "Just don't tell Daddy." The son loved it, and when Dad came home from work, he told him, "And I know everything." Dad looked around nervously and gave him $50, not a word to Mum. In the morning the boy met the postman at the gate. "And I know everything," he declared to the postman. The postman dropped his bag, a tear glistened on his cheek and, spreading his arms for a hug, he shouted, "Go on, give your daddy a hug, son." A son comes to his father and asks, "Dad, what are army jokes?" "Son, go to bed tomorrow, he'll tell you." 5 a.m. Father wakes up his son. "Let's go," he says, "he'll tell you." They go out to the edge of the village and start ringing the bell, and the whole village comes running. "What happened?" The father says, "So, people, we are going fishing with my son now, everyone else can leave." A little son runs into his mother's room and cries bitterly. "Mum." "Son, why are you crying?" "Son," through tears, "we were fishing with Daddy. Daddy caught a big fish, and when he was pulling out the rod, the line broke, and the fish swam away." Mum, smiling, "Well, what's there to cry about, son? You are a grown-up boy and you should realize that in such situations you should not cry, but laugh." So I laughed. A young blonde girl, dissatisfied with the clerk at a shoe boutique, leaving, she exclaimed, "I'll go catch an alligator and get a pair of alligator shoes for free." "Go ahead, girl, try it." The salesman snickered in return. The blonde headed for the nearest swamp, with the firm intention of catching an alligator. Later that afternoon, the salesman was driving home when he saw the same girl standing waist deep in the marsh. Girl standing waist deep in the murky swamp water, rifle in hand. As he braked, he spotted a huge 3-meter alligator that was swiftly swimming in her direction. The girl raised her rifle with lightning speed, took aim, shot the beast, and dragged it to the slippery shore. Nearby, 7 more dead alligators lay on the shore. The salesman stood on the shore, looking on in mute bewilderment, when the blonde girl reached down and flipped the alligator onto its back. After which her shriek echoed throughout the swamp. "Fuck. This one's barefoot, too." A blonde asks her boyfriend to come over. "Help me put the mosaic together, I don't know how to start." "What's it supposed to be?" A tiger was drawn on the box. She shows him the mosaic scattered on the table. He looks at the table and the box for a while and says, "Firstly, we'll never be able to put a tiger together from this. And secondly, I think we should put all the Kellogg's cereal back in the box." A blonde woman in the maternity ward is crying. The nurse asks, "Why are you crying?" "I have twins," the blonde replies, sobbing. "So what? What will I tell my husband, where the second child came from?" A man bought a voucher for a month in a nudist colony. He comes to the gate, shows the voucher. They say to him, "Please undress and enter the territory." So he undressed, went in. He strolls along, and then a girl of stunning beauty meets him. Naturally, his middle leg went into action. And the girl comes up to him and asks, "Did you call me?" "No, you must be new here." "Well, that's how it works here. If a man gets an erection near a woman, it's considered that he called her." So she grabs him and drags him to her room and they make passionate love. After a while the man, happy and satisfied, came out from her and headed to the shower room. Washes himself and in the process of washing, has farts. Here in the shower room piles a big hairy ambo with a huge ballad and asks, "Did you call me?" No, you must be new." "Well, that's the way it works here. If one man farts near another man, he calls him." So the big guy bent the man over and poured him in the ass. After a while, the man came to the gatehouse. "I am leaving. I want to ask for my money back, but this resort doesn't suit me." "Why? You haven't been here a day. Why doesn't it suit you?" "Because I am 60 years old. I get an erection once a month, but I fart 20 times a day." 3 men met on a nude beach. 2 of the 3 men were happy, but the third was sad. The 3 men broke into a conversation. Eventually, they started talking about their jobs, and why they were at the beach. "I am a construction worker," said the first man. "All day long I toil in the hot, hot sun, and do so wearing very heavy clothes. It's quite exhausting. But here, I can relax, and do so without any clothing at all. I am an accountant, said the second man. I just like how everyone here is dressed exactly the same. The first two men turned to the third, sad man. What about you? They asked. Why are you here? My doctor sent me here, said the third man. I am a pickpocket. A man watches a film about doppelgangers of famous people and says to his wife, I wish I had a doppelganger too. What for? You, an alcoholic. Why would you need one? What do you mean? Here I would hang with the men for a couple of weekends in the garage booze, and he would replace me at home, and you would not be nervous for nothing. You can go out for a week and drink all you want. So the man took her at her word and went to the garage. A day of drinking with men, 2, 3. Strange, he thinks, his wife hasn't even called once. He goes home, falls on the doorstep, and there's some bloke with his wife. What are you looking at? It's your double, just like you wanted. What doppelganger? He doesn't even look like me. But he's a substitute. He's a substitute. The husband takes out all the alcoholic drinks from the home bar and neatly puts them all into a sports bag. His wife asks him, Kolya, why do we need so much? We are only going to the dacha for 2 days. Husband. It's not us, Lyasya, for 2 days to the dacha we're going. It's our son who stays at home for 2 days. It's night. The husband is tossing and turning, not sleeping, sighing. His wife asks him what's wrong. Kam owes him 500 rubles, and he has nothing to pay back. The wife gets up, unlocks the window and shouts, Kam. Kam. What, Sarah, Abram owes you 500 rubles? Yes, he does. Well, he won't give it to you. To my husband. Sleep well. Let him stay awake now. A woman comes to the director of the circus, small, puny, with glasses, God's dandelion. She says, I want to be your tiger tamer. Director, holding back a smile. Well, you see there, in the cage, the tigers went wild, go calm down. The woman calmly enters the cage and screams deafeningly. Come on, you animals, calm down. The tigers sat down from surprise, one even wet himself. The director's mad. You and at your last job like this? Yes, but I added something else. What was it? Dash dot. 7th B. A circus trainer is walking through a market. He sees a man in a turtleneck entertaining people. He is holding a hamster on an iron plate, and the hamster is standing on its hind legs and dancing, making absolutely extraordinary pretzels. Man, sell the animal. How much? $500. You're welcome. Sold. The trainer left. The next day, the furious trainer comes to the market. He's looking for that man, but he's back with his hamster on a plate, entertaining people. Asshole, who did you sell me? I go to the circus arena and he sits there and doesn't scratch. My dear man, did you put it on a plate? I did. Did you put a candle under the plate? A girl in the circus watches with interest the performance of trained lions. She excitedly turns to her mom. Have you noticed that all the lions are boys? Mom, dumbfounded by her daughter's anatomical knowledge, wonders. Where did you get that from? Well, you're crazy, Mom. Have you forgotten that lionesses do not wear a mane? God came up with commandments, came down to earth and went to the French. I come to you with commandments. What are the commandments? Well, for example, thou shalt not commit adultery. Oh, no, that's not for us. He comes to the Germans. I come to you with commandments. What are the commandments? Well, for example, thou shalt not murder. No, God, we still have so many wars ahead of us. He comes to the Italians. I've come to you with commandments. What are these commandments? Well, for example, thou shalt not steal. How can I live without stealing from my neighbor? In the end, God comes to the Jews. I came to you with commandments. How much do they cost? Nothing. He'll give them to you for free. Then well, take 10. Fima and Manya saw a dark silhouette on the fence at night. A crow, said Fima. A cat, said Manya. Let's throw a stone at it, suggested Fima. If it flies, it's a crow. If it runs, it's a cat. And so they did. It flew. I told you it was a crow. Fima summed up the argument. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, Manya muttered, I would never have believed that cats could fly. A Russian, a Frenchman, an American, a Chinese and a Jew came to a cafe. They each ordered a cup of coffee, and each had a fly in his coffee. The Russian drank the coffee and threw the fly away. The Frenchman politely apologized, but did not drink the coffee. An American spat coffee in the waiter's face. The Chinese ate the fly but didn't drink the coffee. And the Jew drank the coffee and started selling the fly to the Chinese. A family comes to a pet shop, wants to buy a parrot, but there is only one parrot left, sitting in the far corner. They ask the salesman, why isn't he being taken? He lived in a brothel before. It's okay, well buy it. At home, my daughter took the cage into the room, took the cover off the cage. And the parrot starts screaming, I see we have new girls. The wife comes running into the room. Holy shit, mummy's changed. The father comes in. Oh, look at the old customers. Hello, Ken. A thief breaks into a house. He's bagging up his stuff, and a voice comes. Jesus sees you. The thief was so shocked, he turned round and there was a parrot. Relieved. You said that. Yeah, I wanted to warn you. What's your name? Moses. What kind of retards call a parrot Moses? The same retards who called a wolfhound Jesus. A man walks into a pet shop. Give me a parrot. No, we're out of parrots. Shit, I've got everything. No one to talk to, he'll pay any money, give me a parrot. They thought and thought, painted the owl and sold it. A week later he comes back happy. Thanks, guys. Does he really speak? No, but how he listens. A grandmother asks a saleswoman in a pet shop, why does this parrot have a blue ribbon tied to one leg and a red ribbon tied to the other? Pull the blue one and he speaks German. And the red one speaks English. What if you pull two of them? Parrot. What? He'll fall on my ass. A monk and a nun are traveling through the desert on a camel. The camel dies. They sit down and think what to do. There is nothing to do, no food or water. A nun. Well, brother, we're going to die anyway. Let's at least then imagine that we are in paradise. Well, undress, we want no shame. Monk. Come on, let's undress. The nun is pointing her finger at the monk's groin. Brother, he. What's that dangling there? Oh, sister, it's the root of life. If I put it in you, life will be born. So why the fuck are we sitting here? Stick it in the camel and let's go. A guy walks a girl home. Walks up to the driveway. She's like, let's go in the driveway? He's like, come on. We go in. She's like, why don't you unscrew the light bulb? The guy unscrewed it. She's like, do you want me to take in my mouth? He's like, you're stupid, it's hot. A son asks his dad, Dad, why do cows have breasts between their legs and mums between her arms? Dad replies, because, son, your mum has an ass instead of a head. Night. Son walks into his parents' bedroom where they are making love. Son. Dad, can I play with you? The parents in confusion agree and the son climbs on his father's back. After a while, mom starts moaning and wriggling softly. The son says quietly in his father's ear, Dad, be careful, or I am always falling off Uncle Clyde in this spot. The bus with the players crashed. The players came to the gates of heaven. But Street Peter drove them away. There's no place in heaven for footballers. Go to hell. The team members wandered sadly downstairs. Suddenly Street Peter called out to them. Is your offensive center with you? I am here, father, replied the forward. You can come in, son. Saint Peter stroked him affectionately on the head. I saw your last game. You're not a footballer. 3 men die and go to heaven. Apostle Peter meets them. Well, guys, paradise is big. You can't go round, you have to go. John, you cheated on your wife 20 times. Here's an old saloon car for you, drive. You Tom, you cheated on your wife 5 times, good for you. Here's a Ford, go for a drive. Kevin, you haven't cheated on your wife once. You've lived your life like a saint, here's a new Ferrari, you deserve it. Some time passes and the 2 men, in the old sedan and the Ford, see Kevin crying on the bonnet of his Ferrari. What happened? Yes, I met my wife, on roller skates. One day a bishop and a biker enter heaven. The bishop pulls up his cassock and the biker comes to the gate. God, pushing the bishop aside, invites the biker to enter first. The indignant bishop exclaims, how can it be so? I have been serving God all my life, praying and preaching, and some biker enters paradise ahead of me? God replied, Batyushka, when you were reading prayers and sermons, people were sleeping, but when he was on the road, everyone was praying. A woman's husband died. She went to a seance to talk to her husband's spirit. How's it going in there? I am fine, don't worry. Are you better off there than you were with me? Yes, much better. Wife resentful. Yes, of course. Paradise is paradise. What heaven? I am in hell. A man went to clean the well. He cleaned the well and called his mother-in-law to throw a rope to him and pull him out of the well. And his mother-in-law gives him a condition. If you call me mom, then I'll pull him out. The man agonized and agonized. He could not call his mother-in-law mom. She took offense and left. The man shouted, swore, but there was nothing to do. Somehow he got out himself, all skinned up, his nails broken, angry as hell. He got out of the well, ran into the house and took up his gun. His mother-in-law saw him and ran into the corn to hide. The son-in-law followed her through the corn bushes and called her affectionately, Mummy, where are you? Mother-in-law sends her son-in-law to the vegetable shop. She asks him to pick out the vegetables for the salad, to be clean, without nitrates. Son-in-law went to the shop known for the best quality vegetables. After filling bags, he decided to ask the saleswoman, tell me, are these vegetables without nitrates and without any poisonous substances? I'll take them to my mother-in-law. Saleswoman. Without. It's you, young man, who needs to put it yourself. My mother-in-law, back from the sanatorium. I was bitten by a snake there. The doctors barely managed to pump me out. Son-in-law. Mom, I told you that you should go to a boarding house, not to a sanatorium. There are no snakes there? There are no doctors there. A man comes to the morgue for a sad need, comes down, and on the table near the entrance there are 3 corpses of men lying and all 3 of them are smiling. The visitor to the pathologist. Say, you have here, a morgue or a circus, why are they all smiling? Oh, rubbish. The first went to the casino, lost in a puff and dust, re-borrowed, the last bought a token, threw it into the one-armed man and the jackpot fell out. He got $1 million in cash, and he was so happy he... What about the other one? This is generally a model family man, 30 years persuaded his wife to make love in a different position. Finally he persuaded her, and at the peak of ecstasy from a heart attack and came to us. It's a well-known case, it happens. Why is the third one smiling? This one was struck by lightning. So, he thought he was being photographed. The morgue. Second week no delivery. Sanitation workers are out of work, chugging alcohol. There's a bunch of brothers in jeeps pulling up here. Anyway, our John was shot when he went to a woman's house for a shoot. Only by chance, he was wearing a jacket from some Dolce & Gabbana. A tulip shirt, a funny tie. In short, the guys at the funeral wouldn't understand. Here you are $5,000. Change your brother's clothes so that everything is as it should be. Black suit, white shirt and so on. Throw the money on the table, ship the client out and get out of here. The orderlies are quiet, digesting the events. There's another delivery. A colorful party in convertibles. Like, guys, our Michelle awed and collapsed during the photo shoot. Only by chance he was dressed not our way, some terrible black suit, white shirt, black tie. Our type will not understand well at all. We've come up with some money, change his clothes, a Dolce & Gabbana jacket, a flowery shirt, a brighter tie, so that everything would be as it should be. They throw a bag of money, ship the client out and then they leave. Now it's the orderly's turn. What a day today. What a lucky day. All they have to do is have their heads rearranged. A London lawyer runs a stop sign and gets pulled over by an Irish Garda. He thinks that he is smarter than the cop because he is a lawyer, from London, and is certain that he has a better education than any paddy cop. He decides to prove this to himself and have some fun at the Garda's expense. Irish Garda says, license and registration, please. London lawyer says, what for? Irish Garda replies, you didn't come to a complete stop at the stop sign. London lawyer says, I slowed down, and no one was coming. Irish Garda says, you still didn't come to a complete stop. License and registration, please. London lawyer says, what's the difference? Irish Garda says, the difference is, you have to come to a complete stop, that's the law. License and registration, please. London lawyer says, "If you can show me the legal difference between slow down and stop, I'll give you my license and registration and you give me the ticket. If not, you let me go and don't give me the ticket." Irish Garda says, "Sounds fair. Exit your vehicle, sir." The London lawyer exits his vehicle. The Irish Garda takes out his baton and starts beating the hell out of the lawyer with it and says, "Now then. Do you want me to stop, or just slow down?" Every time there was a crime, no matter how terrible, he would hear the details from his officers and say it could be worse. One day, police were called to a beautiful house on a quiet street that belonged to a wealthy local businessman and his wife, the Dunwoody. When they arrived, they found the front door open, and heard the sound of crying from the kitchen. The wife was sitting in a blood-drenched negligee at the kitchen table, crying hysterically. The husband was sitting calmly across from her, his hands covered in blood. He sipped a coffee. Bloody footprints led up the stairs to the master bedroom. A naked man was face up on the bed with a knife protruding from his chest. His clothes were on the floor, and there was $1,000 cash sitting on the nightstand. The investigating officers immediately called for the chief to come to the scene. "You know what hell say," said one. "It could have been worse." A while later the chief arrived along with the crime scene unit and a couple of detectives. The chief winced as he looked at the bloody scene in the bedroom, then walked away shaking his head. "Well, it could have been worse," he said. One of the cops, feeling brave, called out to him. "Chief, I have to ask, how? I mean, a man is dead. His family is destroyed. Mr. Dunwoody found out his wife is a high-priced escort and committed murder. And now the Dunwoody's kids' lives are ruined. How could it possibly have been worse?" The chief looked at him for a moment. "Well, for one thing, if this had been yesterday, the dead guy would have been me." Three women are sitting in a cafe, talking about their husbands. "My husband is a miner," says Heather. "I like being in bed with him because he has an incredible shaft." "Mine is a dentist," says Linda. "I like being in bed with him because no one can drill like he can." "You're both lucky," says Martha. "My husband's a mailman." "What's wrong with that?" asks Heather. "Well," says Martha, "he always delivers late, and half the time it's in the wrong slot." Three women died and found themselves standing at the pearly gates. St. Peter said to the first woman, "How many men did you sleep with in life?" The first woman said, "I only slept with one man, my husband. And I didn't sleep with him until after we were married." St. Peter turned to the angel standing next to him and said, "Give her the key to the silver room." The angel gave the woman a silver key, and the woman went into heaven with the key. Then St. Peter said to the second woman, "How many men did you sleep with in life?" "I remained a virgin my whole life, for I was a nun and I devoted my life to God." St. Peter turned to the angel and said, "Give her the key to the golden room." The angel gave the woman a golden key, and the woman went into heaven with the key. Then St. Peter said to the third woman, "How many men did you sleep with in life?" "I slept with 13 men before I started dating my husband, 35 men while we were dating, 49 men while we were engaged, 56 men while we were married, and 28 men after he died." St. Peter turned to the angel and said, "Give her the key to my room." A first-grade teacher was having difficulties with one of her students. One day she asked Johnny what his problem was. He replied, "I am too smart for first grade. My sister is in third, and I am smarter than her too." The teacher took him to the principal's office and explained the situation to the principal. The principal told her that he would give Johnny a test, and if he couldn't answer one question, he would have to go back to first grade and keep quiet. The teacher and Johnny both agreed. "What is 3 times 3? Johnny. 9. How much is 6 by 6? Johnny. 36. And so it went on, the principal asking him all the questions a third grader should know. Finally, after about an hour, he said to the teacher, "I see no reason why Johnny can't go to third grade. He has answered all my questions." The teacher asked if he could ask him some questions. The principal and Johnny agreed. "Teacher. What does the cow have 4 of that I only have 2 of?" Johnny. "Legs." Teacher. "What do you have in your trousers that I don't have?" The principal sighs, but before he can stop him from answering, Johnny says, "Pockets." Teacher. "What starts with F and ends with K and means a lot of excitement?" Johnny. "Fire engine." The principal sighs in relief and says, "Put Johnny in 5th grade, I got the last 4 questions wrong myself." A guy driving a Kia pulls up at a stoplight next to a Rolls-Royce. The driver of the Kia rolls down his window and shouts to the driver of the Rolls, "Hey, buddy, that's a nice car. You got Wi-Fi in your Rolls?" "I've got Wi-Fi in my Kia." The driver of the Rolls looks over and says simply, "Yes, I have Wi-Fi." The driver of the Kia says, "Cool. Hey, you got a fridge in there too?" "I've got a fridge in the backseat of my Kia." The driver of the Rolls, looking annoyed, says, "Yes, I have a refrigerator." The driver of the Kia says, "That's great, man. Hey, you got a TV in there, too?" "You know, I got a TV in the backseat of my Kia." The driver of the Rolls, looking very annoyed by now, says, "Yes, I have a television. A Rolls-Royce is the finest luxury car in the world." The driver of the Kia says, "That's a very cool car. Hey, you got a bed in there, too?" "I got a bed in the back of my Kia." Upset that he did not have a bed, the driver of the Rolls-Royce sped away. He went straight to the dealer, where he promptly ordered that a bed be installed in the back of the Rolls. The next morning, the driver of the Rolls picked up his car. The bed looked superb, complete with silk sheets and brass trim. It was clearly a bed fit for a Rolls-Royce. So, the driver of the Rolls drove around all day looking for the Kia. Finally, late that night, he finds the Kia parked, with all the windows fogged up from the inside. The driver of the Rolls gets out of his car and knocks on the Kia's window. At first there is no answer, then the owner sticks his head out, soaking wet. "I now have a bed in the back of my Rolls-Royce," the driver of the Rolls said arrogantly. The driver of the Kia says, "You got me out of the shower to tell me that." The king returns home from the hunt. Suddenly, he sees that right in the royal courtyard, some insolent fellow wrote in the snow the king is a moron with his urine. Enraged, the king shouts, "Merlin, come here this instant." At once, the court wizard appears. "Merlin," says the king, "at once, find out who did this." Merlin pulls out his staff, casts a few spells, lights up a candle to divine in the flame. "Your Majesty," he says, "the urine on the snow belongs to Albert, your first minister." "Excellent work, Merlin," the king turns toward his guards. "You four, arrest the first minister at once. And the queen, too." "Excuse me, your Majesty," Merlin says. "But why the queen? I recognize her handwriting." A king had 10 wild dogs. He used them to torture and kill any minister that misguided him. A minister once gave an opinion which was wrong and which the king didn't like at all. So he ordered that the minister to be thrown to the dogs. The minister said, "I served you loyally 10 years and you do this?" The king was unrelenting. Minister pleaded, "Please give me 10 days before you throw me to the dogs." The king agreed. In those 10 days the minister went to the keeper of the dogs and told him he wanted to serve the dogs for the next 10 days. The guard was baffled, but he agreed, so the minister started feeding the dogs, caring for them, washing them, providing all sorts of comfort for them. So when the 10 days were up, the king ordered that the minister be thrown to the dogs as sentenced. When he was thrown in, everyone was amazed at what they saw. The dogs were wagging their tails playing with the condemned minister, licking his feet. The king was baffled at what he saw. "What happened to the dogs?" he growled. The minister then said, "I served the dogs for only 10 days and they didn't forget my service. Yet I served you for 10 years and you forgot all at the first mistake." The king realized his mistake and replaced the dogs with crocodiles. The admiral came to the ship with an inspection. He went into the commander's cabin. "Pour, commander. Pour it." They sit, drink, snack, talk about the life of the fleet. 3 hours later, the admiral says, "Well, breadwinner, thank you. You made me happy." He left. On the second day in the headquarters debriefing, Admiral speaks with a report on the results of the inspection. During the inspection of combat readiness destroyer, Bold revealed the following observations. In the engine room, and went to list, there's shit, there's mud, there's water under the gunnels. The commander is sitting there, red, as he should be. He's worried. After the report, when he's already been blown to smithereens, he goes to the admiral. "Comrade Admiral, may I address you?" "Go ahead, Commander." "I understand. A check is a check. I have no complaints. All your remarks are relevant. Just answer one question. Who snitched? You've been sitting in my quarters for the whole inspection." The admiral pats the commander on the shoulder. "You're naive, son. I commanded this destroyer 20 years ago. Do you think anything has changed since then? The admiral was fond of giving the most unexpected commands. Going up to the ship one day, he took off his cap, threw it on the deck and announced to the sailors, "This is a bomb. What do you do?" One young sailor, not thinking long, kicked the cap so that it fell into the water. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the admiral's reaction. He pointed his hand at the floating cap and gave a new command: "Man overboard." My son is going bear hunting. His father is old, disabled and legless, and asks him to take him along. The son is puzzled. "Where will you go, father, without legs?" "You'll put me in a rucksack and it'll help you to kill a bear, and if your rifle fails, you'll turn me round and it'll shoot." "Well, God be with you. Maybe you'll really help at the right moment." So I took my father. They came to the den, opened it, and a huge bear jumped out. The son misfired, missed. He turns round, and my father fires 2 duplicate shots and misses. They run, and the bear is already at their heels. The son thinks, "Shit, we can't run away together. I feel sorry for my father, but we'll have to throw it. Why should 2 people die?" He threw down his rucksack and ran 3 times faster. He came running into the house, he couldn't catch his breath, and his mother came running towards him. "That's it, mother, we don't have a father anymore. You, hunters, are a dick to understand. 5 minutes ago my father came crawling back. We have no more son," he says. A hunter is going hunting in the taiga. He does not know the terrain, so he takes a local guide with him. They are walking through the taiga. The guide is in the front, cutting a passage through the thicket with a long axe. The hunter follows him with a rifle, breathing into his back. Pop! A bear jumps out of the thicket. The guide froze with his axe raised. The bear also stopped. The guide, without turning round, says to the hunter in a low voice, "Come here." There is silence behind him. He repeats again, "Come here." Again silence behind him. He hisses for the 3rd time, choking on his saliva. "Come here, fuck." The hunter's voice is half a tone quieter behind him. "What the fuck are you calling him for?" The man's wife left him. Upset, he went for a drive and suddenly ran over a cop and crushed him to death. Not knowing what else to do, he threw the cop in the trunk and drove to the cemetery. When he got there, he came across a watchman. "Listen, if you bury this body with no questions asked, he'll pay you $100. The watchman agreed and the man left the cemetery in a hurry. He was shocked. His wife left him and he killed a cop. Bang! Before he could react, he knocked down another cop. "What should I do? I don't have money. I'll just throw it to the watchman quietly and maybe he won't notice." He drove back to the cemetery and quietly threw the second cop to the watchman while he was distracted. The watchman finished burying the first one. Turned around only to see the second cop. WTF? I swear I buried it? Just down the road there was a police post near the cemetery. The cop notices that the same car had traveled back and forth to the cemetery and decided to check what was happening. He drove to the cemetery where the watchman just buried the second cop. The officer asked him, "What's going on here?" Only for the watchman hit him on the head with a shovel. "Will you just fucking stay buried?" An alcoholic got drunk in a cemetery, fell into a grave and fell asleep. He wakes up in the night and realizes that he is in a cemetery. He sees a gravedigger digging a grave. The alky was in a good mood and thought, "Let me scare him." He found a white sheet, threw it over his head, approached the gravedigger and shouted fearfully, You. The gravedigger gave him a totally PF***istic look and continued digging the grave. The alky didn't understand, approached from the other side and shouted even louder and scarier. Ooh, the gravedigger didn't care again. He looked, no reaction. So this drunkard got upset. Went to the exit of the cemetery, even forgot to throw off the sheet. When he reaches the gate, the gravedigger catches up with him, hits him on the head with a shovel and calmly says, Walk, but don't go outside the territory. Once a guy and a girl went to the woods to pick berries. As soon as they got far away, he started hitting on her. I love her. It should be said that she is a tall, stately girl, and he is just a little guy. A meter and a cap. In a leap, but stubborn, he got her, so the girl decides to play a prank. So she tells the lover, all right, I'll give it to you. but only in the boner. I don't want to do it cattle style, but lying down, it'll make my sundress green on the grass. My mom will realize everything at once and pull out my braids. I won't take it off, mosquitoes. I thought she'd give up because it's impossible to realize. Ha, naive. The guy takes off his trousers, puts the girl against a tree, ties her legs above her knees with a belt, stands on it and only bumps sprinkle. The girl, leaving, could only say, "You've been taught by the Leshy." And then from the bushes, "It's the first time I've seen it myself." Red Riding Hood is walking through the forest. Suddenly she sees the gray wolf sitting under a tree and says to him, "What big eyes you have, Gray Wolf." The wolf turned away and ran away. Red Riding Hood goes further along the path. She crossed a forest stream. Suddenly she sees the gray wolf lurking behind a stump. "What big ears you have," said Little Red Riding Hood, and the gray wolf just sniffed at Red Riding Hood and ran away. Little Red Riding Hood goes on through the fir trees and bushes. Suddenly, look, under a small Christmas tree, the gray wolf is sitting again. "What big teeth you have, Gray Wolf," muttered Little Red Riding Hood. "Fucking hell, are you going to give me a shit or not?" The teacher is telling the class, "It's important to know how to behave properly in nature. Yesterday I saw an adder in the woods and it didn't bite me, and that's because." From the back of the desk, Jack finishes his sentence, "Because they don't touch their own." A boy walks through the forest, and an old and scary old woman sits on a stump in the meadow. The boy spits, and the old woman says, "By the way, I am a witch. I can fulfill any 3 of your wishes, if you fulfill one of mine." "Fine. I want a cool car. You will go out on the road. The Cruiser 300 is already waiting for you there. I want a lot of money. In the car, the entire trunk will be filled with bucks. I want a beautiful lover. There will be a beautiful blonde from head to toe in the backseat of the car. So what favor do I have to do for all this? Yaku yaku, sexy, of course." The boy did the favor and ran out of the forest, and the grandmother followed him. "Son, how old are you?" 27, and what? Nothing. So big, but you believe in fairy tales. The man is nagged by his wife almost every day. There's no peace, so the man went to a sorceress. They made a deal. The witch gave him a bottle of potion and said, if his wife drinks it, that's it. She'll disappear. The next day the man runs to the witch and shouts, "What have you done, old woman? What did you do?" His wife disappeared? Disappeared. Well, then what's your complaint? Well, but the sound is still there. 3 drunk guys entered a taxi. The taxi driver knew that they were drunk, so he started the engine, turned it off again. Then said, "We have reached your destination." The first guy gave him money. The second guy said thank you. The third guy slapped the driver. The driver was shocked, thinking the third drunk knew what he did. But then he asked what was that for. The third guy replied, "Control your speed next time, you nearly killed us." A passenger tapped the driver on the shoulder to ask him a question. The driver screamed, lost control of the car, nearly hit a bus, went up on the footpath, and stopped centimeters from a shop window. For a second everything went quiet in the cab, then the driver said, "Look mate, don't ever do that again. You scared the daylights out of me." The passenger apologized and said, "I didn't realize that a little tap would scare you so much." The driver replied, "Sorry, it's not really your fault. Today is my first day as a taxi driver. I've been driving a funeral van for the last 25 years. A guy and his date are parked out in the country away from town, when they start kissing and fondling each other. Just then, the girl stops and sits up. "What's the matter?" asks the guy. She replies, "I really should have mentioned this earlier. But I'm actually a prostitute, and I charge $100 for sex." The man thinks about it for a few seconds, but then reluctantly gets out a $100 bill, pays her, and they have sex. After a cigarette, he just sits in the driver's seat looking out the window. "Why aren't we going anywhere?" asks the girl. "Well, I should have mentioned this before," replies the man, "but I'm actually a taxi driver, and the fare back to town is $150. A gorilla passed away at the zoo right before it opens for the day. It was the only gorilla in the zoo since they weren't a very profitable creature. However, the gorilla was very popular and the zoo couldn't afford to open without it. The zoo manager asked one of his employees to wear a gorilla suit for an extra $100 a day to keep the customers satisfied until they found a replacement. The employee agreed and quickly took his place in the enclosure. Once the zoo opened, the crowd loved the gorilla even more. People from all over came to see it. However, a few weeks go by and the dazzle fizzles out. So to gain back interest, he climbs up the bars of the enclosure and hangs above the lion's cage, swinging around and doing stunts. The people stared in awe and shock as the spectacle continued. Suddenly the mon's grip fails and he falls into the lion's cage. Afraid for his life, he screams help. Help! A lion sneaks up from behind him and pounces on him, whispering in his ear. Shut the fuck up or you're gonna get both of us fired. My son came to the zoo with his dad. Dad, who's that? Wolf. And this? A fox. And this? The elephant. What's between his legs? Oh, well, that's nothing, son. Next time he comes with his mom. Well, mom, this is a wolf, this is a fox, this is an elephant. And you see what's hanging between his legs? Sure, so it's bullshit. Who told you that? Dad, tell Dad that he's the bullshit, but the elephant has the right thing. Tell him. A kangaroo escapes from an Australian zoo. They caught him. Well, of course, he escaped, so he jumped over the fence. They tear down the old 3-meter fence and put up a 5-meter fence. The kangaroo escapes again. He is caught again, and now they put up a 9-meter fence. The kangaroo escapes again. He is caught and a 15-meter fence is put up. Finally, the camel in the next enclosure asks the kangaroo. Listen, how far do you think they'll get the fence up? Well, to about 60 meters. Maybe they'll finally start closing the gate at night. John and David were both patients in a mental hospital. One day, while they were walking, they passed the hospital swimming pool and John suddenly dove into the deep end. He sank to the bottom and stayed there. David promptly jumped in and saved him, swimming to the bottom of the pool and pulling John out. The medical director came to know of David's heroic act. He immediately ordered that David be discharged from the hospital as he now considered him to be okay. The doctor said, "David, we have good news and bad news for you. The good news is that we are going to discharge you because you have regained your sanity. Since you were able to jump in and save another patient, you must be mentally stable. The bad news is that the patient that you saved hung himself in the bathroom and died after all." David replied, "Doctor, John didn't hang himself. I hung him there to dry." An inspector from the ministry comes to check a mental hospital. Together with the head doctor, they go round the territory and see that one of the lunatics is standing on the platform, and all the others are standing around and looking at him. The inspector asks the head doctor, "Why are they looking at him like that?" "He's telling everyone he's a newspaper, so they're reading him." Interesting. Well, I don't have time today, we'll continue the inspection tomorrow." The next day the inspector comes to continue the inspection and sees that the lunatic who was a newspaper the day before is being chased by all the other lunatics. He asks the head doctor, "What's going on now? Why are they chasing this newspaper?" "Because it's now yesterday's newspaper, so they want to use it as toilet paper." A patient is being discharged from a mental institution. The board asks, "Where are the fish?" "In the lake." "Are there fish in the toilet?" "No." "All right, we're discharging you." He's discharged. He's packing his things. His friend comes up to him and says, "Why did you tell the commission that there are no fish in the toilet? We used to fish there all the time." "Why? I am a fool to give away fishing spots." The aliens caught a Russian, a German, and a Chinese. And they say, "Whoever names a number we don't know will be released, and the rest will be minced." The Chinese, 10 billion. Aliens, we know, minced meat. German, 9 septillion 999 sextillion 999 quintillion 999 quadrillion 999 trillion 999 billion 999 million 999,999. We know that too, mincemeat. Russian, up to fuck. Oh, how? We don't know. Dismissed. Just tell me how much is it? Russian. And you ask the shooter. The aliens came to the switchman and asked how much is to fuck. Arrowman. See the rails, see the wood across them? See them nailed together with these things? So go and count them, and when you go, fuck them. That's only half of it. Aliens kidnap a Jew and decide to conduct experiments. The head of the aliens says, "Why are you Jews such a cunning nation? What's the secret?" "Oh, who told you for such nonsense? The whole world is talking about it. Your world is lying. We're going to find out. If you can survive on our planet for a week, we'll let you go, or die." 4 days pass, and nothing is heard from the Jew. 6 days pass and there's silence too, he must have died. On the 7th day, a panting alien comes running, nervously lights a cigarette and says, "You won't believe it, the Jew is alive and he has already sold our ship." "Why did you sell the ship? How are you going to fly back?" "Oh, please, there's no place a Jew can't live. Too bad for you." In a restaurant in a small American town, an elderly couple was celebrating their golden wedding anniversary. The celebration was nearing its end. At one point, the husband took his wife's hand and said, "Esther, my dear, it's hard to imagine, we've been together for half a century. And I wonder if you have always been faithful to me." "Well, dear Herman, I'll tell you the truth. I've been unfaithful to you 3 times in the last 50 years. But mind you, there were good reasons for that." Herman was simply shocked by his wife's confession, but did not give away his feelings, but only asked, "What do you mean by good reasons?" "Well, you remember when we were first married and had a house. And soon it turned out that it was to be taken away from us because we were unable to pay the loan. You may remember that I went to the banker, and the next morning we got a letter from the bank telling us that we had been given an extension." "Well," agreed Herman, "I forgive you that sin. After all, by doing so you have saved us the house." "And the second time? Darling, remember, you had a heart attack and we didn't have the money to pay for the operation. So I went to the surgeon, and after my visit, you were operated on for free." "Well," said Herman, "you saved my life. And I just have to forgive you in this treason." "Well, and what pushed you the third time?" "Well, don't you remember when you ran for mayor of our town? For mayor of this town, and you were just short of 73 votes. An old man in Louisiana owned a large farm for several years. He had a large pond. The pond served as a swimming area, so the farmer put picnic tables nearby and planted apple and peach trees. One evening the old farmer decided to go down to the pond since he hadn't been there in a long time. He grabbed a 5-gallon bucket to pick fruit. As he approached the pond, he heard joyful voices and women's laughter. As he got closer, he saw that it was several young women swimming naked in the pond. They saw the old man and swam into the deep. One of the women shouted to him, "We won't come out until you leave." The old man frowned. "I didn't come here to watch you swim naked or to force you out of the pond naked." Showing them the bucket, he said, "I have come to feed my crocodile." 2 women met in heaven. "Hello, Wanda." "Hello, Sylvia. So you died too?" "From what?" "I froze to death." "What a horrible death." "Well, not really. At first I was shaking with cold, then I fell asleep and got warm, and finally I passed away in peace." "Well, what about you?" "I died of a massive heart attack. I had long suspected my husband of cheating, decided to make sure of it, and came home unexpectedly to catch the cheater red-handed. But it turned out that he is sitting in his office and quietly watching TV. What had happened? I was so sure that in the house hiding another woman that literally shook the whole house. Checked literally everything from the basement to the attic, looked in all the cupboards, looked in the bathroom and toilets, searched under the beds. And as a result of all this fruitless searching, I was so exhausted that I had a heart attack. And here I am. Yeah, mate, tough luck. But if you'd known to look in the fridge, we'd both be alive." A man knocks on the door of heaven. A sleepy angel peeks out. "Man, what do you want?" "What do you want?" "I want to go to heaven." "What have you done good in your life to ask for paradise?" "Well, I did. I was walking along one day and I saw some hooligans taking a woman's purse. So I went up to the biggest one and punched him in the face." "You're a good man. I commend you. When was that?" The man looks at his watch. "About 2 minutes ago." 2 friends died on the same day. One of them went to heaven, the other to hell. After a while, the one in heaven called his friend in hell. "How's it going?" he asked. "You know, fine," replies the sinner. On arrival they dress you in a red suit. They give you a hot poker, then lots of drinking, dancing. And how many girls? Entertainment after entertainment. I've never experienced anything like it in my life. Well, how are you? I've never worked so hard, answers the righteous man with a sigh. Every day I have to carry milk to the Milky Way, polish the stars, push the clouds. In general, there is no strength. Why do you have so much work? Because I'm the only one here. On the main street of a small town, a policeman stopped a car whose driver was driving at an unauthorized speed. Mr. Officer, he began to justify himself, I can explain to you why I was driving so fast. Shut up, the policeman interrupted him, you'll have to cool your ardor in our jail until the chief comes back. But, Mr. Officer, I was just going to say. I'm saying shut up. In the meantime, take a break behind bars. A few hours later, a policeman came up to the offender and said, You're in luck, because my boss is at his daughter's wedding. When he gets back, he'll be in good spirits. I can hardly count on that, replied the poor man, because I am the groom. There's a call at FBI headquarters. Hello? Hello, is this the FBI? Yes. What do you want? I'd like to inform you that my neighbor Tom is hiding marijuana in his firewood. We'll take it under advisement. We'll take it under advisement. The next day, the FBI raided Tom's house. They ransacked the woodpile, chopped all the wood, found nothing, cursed the homeowner out of his mind, and left. After that, there's a phone call at Tom's house. Hey, Tom, did you have the FBI in here? Yes, I did. Did they chop your wood? Yeah, they did. Yes, they did. Okay, now it's your turn to call them. I've got a vegetable garden to dig. A man is driving an open Mercedes. The breeze is blowing, the sun is shining. It's all good. 85 miles an hour on the speedometer. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a traffic police car appears and starts chasing the man. He thinks, I'm in such a car. They won't catch up. He's speeding up, he's over 100. The police are on his tail and they're not lagging behind. 120 on the speedometer, the police are on his tail. So, the man hits 150. The police keep up. We gotta pull over and give up. The man stops on the side of the road. A cop comes up and says, Good afternoon, sir. This is my last day on the force. I'm retiring, so I don't really feel like writing tickets. If you can come up with a good explanation for your actions, I'll let you go. Oh, says the man. The thing is, my wife ran off with a policeman a week ago, and I thought they were trying to get her back. The dogs Belka and Strelka were sent into space, and the far north dweller was sent to look after them. Control communication. Command center. Squirrel, woof. Press the red button. Woof, woof. Arrow, woof. Press the black button. Woof, woof. Dude, woof, woof. Don't bark, you idiot. Feed the dogs and don't touch anything. What are you doing? Watching a movie. What movie? Shark Killer. What's it about? Fuzzy bunnies. In space. Two planets talking. How's it going? Fine. How are you? Shitty. What's wrong? There's an itch. The atmosphere's all smoky. The forests are peeling. The deserts are itching. It looks like you've got humans. She's terrified. People? Like people? Where did they come from? The other one, reassuring. Don't worry about it. Just take a couple of medium-sized meteorites. A man is driving a truck on a deserted road at night. He sees a red light flashing on the side of the road. He stops. He sees a little man. I'm from the planet Mars. Gay, give me a ride. You're not gonna hit on me, are you? No, I'm not interested in Earthlings. He gets in. They keep driving. The man sees a blue flashing light on the side of the road. Stops. There's the little man again. I'm from the planet Venus. Gay, give me a ride. Don't bother me. No, I'm not interested in Earthlings. I got another one from Mars. I'm not interested in Martians either. He gets in. They drive on. A man sees a light flashing red and blue on the side of the road. Stops. Sticks out of the cab. What planet are you from? Citizen. Show me your documents. A man came to see a sexopathologist and complained about his reproductive organ, which is not the same as it used to be. After running a few tests, the doctor said, I'm sorry, sir, but for the last 30 years you've been overdoing it in the love field. I'm afraid your potency will last another 30 at most. Terribly upset, the man returned home, where his wife was eagerly awaiting the results of her husband's examination. Darling, well, what did the doctor tell you? The poor man told her the disappointing truth. She exclaimed, "How, only 30 times? Then we shouldn't waste any time. Let's make a list." The husband replied, "Darling, I made a list on the way home. Unfortunately, your name is not on it." The old cowboy walked into the cafeteria and ordered a cup of coffee. He had already taken a few sips when a young woman sat down at his table. Turning to the old man, she asked him a question. "What, are you really a cowboy?" He replied, "Well, madam, what can I say to that? All my life I've shot colts, herded cows, rodeoed, mended fences, took in and nursed calves, stocked hay for the winter, cleaned barns, plowed on a tractor, and fed my dogs. I guess I really am a cowboy. What are you?" "I'm a lesbian. All I think about all day is women. Before I wake up, I'm thinking about them. I take a shower, I think about them. I watch TV and think about women. Even when I'm eating, I can't stop thinking about them. I mean, literally everything makes me think of women." At this time, another customer came into the cafe, sat down at their table and asked the man, "Are you really a cowboy?" The man replied, "All my life I thought I was a cowboy, but I just realized that I am a lesbian." An unhealthy-looking man walks into a sex shop and puts a rubber woman on the counter. "I bought her from you a week ago," he says to the salesgirl. "Defective. I filled the tub with water and checked, she's leaking air." "And why didn't you bring it earlier?" asks the saleswoman reasonably. "Earlier I could not," sighs the man. "The neighbor in the slot all saw everything through the crack. And the cops didn't figure out what kind of woman I'd drowned in the bathtub." Kindergarten. The girl composed a poem and is reading it. "The cat in our apartment gave birth to 3 kittens. They have grown up a little and they all want to join the party." The headmistress praised her. "Soon the commission will come and you will speak." The commission came. The girl is speaking. "The cat in our apartment gave birth to 3 kittens. They have grown up a little, 2 of them want to join the party." Director, whispering, 3, not 2. Girl. "One of them has already opened his eyes." Announcement. Free in good hands. Red kitten, 6 months old, affectionate, playful, all vaccinations are done. To the toilet accustomed. Ideal for a family with children. Or husband, brunette, brown eyes, 35 years old, kind, sociable, good high-paying job, but cannot tolerate cats. Says that in the house will live either he or the cat. Come, look and choose the one you like better. Acute psychosis. You're talking to a cat. Acute hallucinatory psychosis. You talk to a cat that doesn't exist. Paranoia. You're afraid to say anything in front of the cat. Schizophrenia. The cat is talking inside you. Neurasthenia. You complain to the cat is silent, ignores you, and you find it completely unbearable. Manic depressive psychosis. Your cat doesn't appreciate you. A gnome is frantically tinkering with bushes in the garden when he is approached by his master's cat. "Who are you?" asks the cat. "I am a gnome," he replies. "I steal people's food, destroy their crops. At night I make horrible music that drives them crazy. But most of all, I love ripping up wallpaper and mischief. And who, may I ask, are you?" "Well, then I'm a gnome too," the cat replies. A girl on the beach, lying on the sand. A guy passes by and says to her, "Girl, you have something stuck to one of your hemispheres, like a shell, let me remove it." "Dream on," the girl grinned. "And you could, more accurately say where exactly?" "But only culturally. I would say that it is in the Western Hemisphere, approximately in the south of Mexico and the size of Cuba." Australian coastline. A baby great white shark is pestering its mum. "Mum, I'm really, really hungry." "Well, what's the problem, son?" "Swim to the beach, find the beachcomber who swam away. Then, show your fin out of the water, make 3 circles around the swimmer, and eat to your heart's content." "Mum, I'm so very, very hungry, can I eat right away?" "Without the 3 laps? Suit yourself, son. If you like it with poo, eat it with poo." A businessman traveling north asked the clerk at the hotel what the weather was expected to be like tomorrow. The clerk shook his head. As luck would have it, an Indian who also worked here entered the hotel at that moment. Hearing the conversation, he immediately replied, "It will rain heavily," and so it turned out to be. The next day the businessman decided to test the Indian's extraordinary abilities once again. This time, he predicted clear and cool weather. And again the forecast was completely justified. When on the third day the Indian was asked to predict the weather, he smiled and said, "Didn't you listen to the radio today?"